So for 25 years of being in the band, it's not like I didn't try to like leave or do other things. It's like, I can't do anything else because this is my purpose, really. So I kind of look at it like a celebration of like my purpose of like I mean, like being the only member is interesting because only one person was ever fired.
After 25 years of Senses Fail, what keeps you going creatively? Where do you find that special sauce to write about something that you haven't touched upon prior?
I have like an innate inability to sit still, I guess. I don't know if it's ADHD or I have to be creative. It's not like a non-negotiable. It was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to find a way that the only thing I do in my life is be creative in this format, obviously in music. That's the one I chose. So, but I don't think I like oxygen. I don't think I could survive without it. So I don't really have a choice. My life would be pretty dark and meaningless if I didn't have an output to the world. Even with all the things like the children and the family and everything I have in my life, it would be very difficult if I didn't feel like I had a way to communicate with the world at large.
Did you figure that out when you stepped away a little to start managing people, that you did miss that outlet?
No, I knew that from like very, very early on. Like when I was a teenager, I was pretty existential and weird as a teenager. I kind of really struggled understanding how anybody viewed the world differently than me, meaning I had this very like large, I felt the world was a very big place that needed to be seen and needed to be kind of like processed and understood, and that human connection was like at the center of bringing meaningfulness to your life. And I didn't obviously know how to do that outside of, music seems to be a way in which everybody communicates. And that's how I felt that I was drawn to it. I don't really know if there's anything inherently meaningful about life. And I realized that as like a very young age. And that was like really destabilizing for me to have those kind of thoughts when you're like, I don't know, 12. And nobody can communicate that. But music, when I found people communicating that first, it was through music. And I'm like, oh, okay. So there are people that are like having these existential thoughts, and it is a human experience. I'm not crazy.
Because even at such a young age, you had very deep, lyrical. I remember when your band's first EP came out, and I remember buying the Drive-Thru records, and I remember seeing Let It Enfold You in Best Buy. Like, you had such a different perspective on how you were writing at that point.
Yeah. Because I read, like, I came into, before I ever started writing, like, fairly well read as far as, like, mythology and religion and just, like, existential. Like, I read,
That was just
Stranger, Albert Camus, and I was, like a typical, like, what would become a hipster. I was very inspired by beat poetry for whatever reason. My parents got divorced when I was like 5. My father remarried this young Swedish girl, as you do. And she gave me Charles Bukowski to read when I was like 9. I was like, okay, like, so that was like, oh, this is a thing. Like, this is a way people write and talk and like romanticize drinking. And I got really, really into like that world of like just Jack Kerouac and beat writers and like romanticizing the struggle of life. And I feel like it spoke to me on a, when you're young and your parents separate and you go through situations that are very difficult for any age, let alone when you're in that definitive like secure attachment. You're trying to have really like the people, your parents are it. You have no concept of world outside. So when they detach from you or from each other, it paints the world and like, oh, the world might be a little bit darker than it seems. And when you start to touch those surfaces that show that back, like Charles Bukowski is a pretty extreme version of that, you start to be like, oh, okay, like, so this experience that I'm having is somewhat normal because clearly there's other people that are worse off than me, and that was comforting. And then like through that, I'm experiencing all these people being creative through different mediums. I was like, oh, this is what I need to do. I need to like, I hate the term speak the truth. I even named a band that. I don't know why I hate saying it because I feel like it's a little, my truth is no more important than anybody else's, but it does feel that way. Internally, everything that we feel feels like the most important thing in the world. And it is because we're internally having this experience. But that's to say, when I knew that needed to be number one goal. I have to like just go out into the world and like tell whatever my story is, whatever that becomes. That's like, I felt very compelled to do that from a young age.
When you were figuring all that stuff out and you were putting the pen to paper and then you were being expressed, did you feel like you were finally being heard singing that out to the crowds?
Yeah, and that was the big thing. I was like, oh my God, this aha moment where, especially when I get to perform too, because I really was like, I'm a pretty physical person and I grew up, before Census Fail took off, I was doing recruiting trips for lacrosse. Yeah.
Like you were bringing people to the...
No, me. I was going to colleges to play. I was being recruited. I was like an athlete and I would have gone to, I had a couple offers for a bunch of different schools to go play lacrosse, which is so weird and random, but if you know me and where I grew up and how I grew up, it's not at all.
What's up, guys? Real quick, I just want to let you know the Coffee Bean gave me an exclusive early taste of their new menu, and I've been trying to switch things up with my usual order, but especially with it getting hotter out, these ended up being a really good find. They just dropped their Coconut Creations lineup in time for the summer, and if you ever wanted to try a drink to feel a little more like a vacation, these are it. We are living in the timeline. Now is the time to try. It's available from June 3rd through August 18th, and everything's built around that smooth, creamy coconut flavor across different drinks. You can go with an iced coconut cream latte, a coconut ice blended drink, or an iced coconut cream matcha latte. Each one has that slightly sweet coconut flavor, but it's not too heavy and it feels so refreshing. Personally, I like the ice blended. It's perfect for the weather going on right now in California. But the coconut cream latte and the iced coconut cream matcha latte are just as good. It just depends on what palate you're feeling that day. So if you're looking to break out from your usual order for the summer, this is such an easy place to start. So head to your nearest Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf and get them before they're all gone. Lacrosse exploded in New Jersey.
Yeah, it was massive. And when I was growing up, I played lacrosse for most of my youth. And yeah, I was going to go do that, go to college and, do, work in finance and, blow my brains out or something like that. But I didn't do that. And I was like, I ended up literally senior year right after 9/11. 9/11, like, I want to, it absolutely completely changed my life. And the fact that it showed me like there is no room for being wishy-washy with what you feel you're supposed to be doing with your life. And I mean, bigger than like goals or dreams or whatever. Like that's not, I'm saying like that whatever internal compass you have that says, I have to do this or have to say this. I think a lot of people have that. And I think a lot of people potentially ignore that because it seems daunting to set out and do something, whatever that is. It could be as simple as like, I'm going to start a podcast, I'm going to do this. Most people, feel really, I always get nervous about telling people my goals or dreams. I don't like doing that because I feel like mine are so big and so unattainable that they feel
challenged?
No, I don't want to burden people with my internal sort of like, well, I'm going to be the the biggest band in the world, or like, I'm going to have the #1 podcast. It'd be like, I don't know. I did this with jujitsu too, where I was like, well, I'm going to go win a world title, or I'm going to go medal at Pan Am's or something. I'm very like nervous to tell people that because I feel like embarrassed by how much I don't want to say addicted to it, addicted to sort of like, if there's something I want to do, I'm going to go do it. 9/11 is what gave me, it's not a confidence because I don't think anything's guaranteed, but that like you cannot exist very quickly, and then you don't have a chance to do anything. And that's what it showed me as like being like I was thinking I was 17 when 9/11 happened, and where I grew up in New Jersey, we're 20 minutes from New York City. Most of our parents either work in this city or have some association with on a weekly, monthly basis there and there. My mom used to work in soap opera. So she was an actress and on a couple different soap operas. And so she would always be in and out of the city. And my stepfather, he's an attorney, and he was always in and out of the city. So, when it happened, you're like, oh my God, it felt like I've never been to war. Like I don't liken it to that, but the shock of like not knowing what can happen next in a way that feels actually unsafe, not in like a exciting or it'll eventually work out. Like in a little, probably the only time I've ever felt this way was, when 9/11 is happening and you're in school and they're like, something happened and we don't know what. And then people start to figure it out. And then everyone's kind of leaving school, and we had a place that we could go see the city. So everybody drove up there, and you're up there and you watch one of the towers fall from like, you're this iconic skyline. You're watching that and you're like, oh my God, like
you saw it fall?
Yeah. And you're like, okay, like what do we do now? And I went and I went to my sister, who's like 5 years younger than me. So I went and pulled her out of school because I'm like, this is weird. Everybody should be panicking like this, because there were like reports of Flight 93, or there were reports that there were other airplanes being involved and other things. And like living that close and watching it kind of unfolding without any kind of, we had no internet. I mean, there was internet, but it wasn't like you could just log on to, Instagram or X and get a sort of a play-by-play update. You're just like, I don't know what's happening. So I went and pulled my sister out and kind of was trying to communicate and find my mom and my stepdad. And, the phones were all jammed. And that was like really unsettling. The first time I've ever had anything like a real emergency. It's New Jersey. It's not like we have, we've fairly void of natural disasters. And we all ended up getting together. Everything was fine. And then we just sat around and watched it on TV for days. And coming out of that, trying to like go back to school and put the like, I don't want to say the genie back in the bottle, but that seems like the best kind of like, you Pandora's box is opened and you're like, oh no, we're just going to go back and I'm just going to go to college and keep doing this thing and live my normal life. It feels like it really was like, no, I need to go I need to make sure that doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or else one day when, I don't exist, it'll feel like I potentially wasted my time or my life. And that changed my life as far as like, how do I have confidence in sort of like growing up? That's what happens, I think, when you're 18, 19 and you're in your early 20s, you're like, trying to gain the confidence to grow up into like a full human being,
At that point, did you know you wanted to be a singer? Did you have the band figured out? Were you just toying with the idea?
I didn't want to be a singer. I still don't want to be a singer. I was the guitar player of the band. We couldn't find a singer.
So you stepped up.
I was like, I guess I'll sing. Yeah.
Were you nervous to do that in front of people?
I don't know. No, I wasn't nervous. It ended up being exactly what I wanted, which was the ability to be like, just I don't know how else to, just like everything out. There's nothing holding me back from performing and singing and kind of like really doing exactly what I want to do. Whereas, I'd never really written lyrics. I'd written a lot of bad, teenage poetry and emulating, Charles Bukowski and stuff like that. But I was a guitar player, and that was like my mode of how I wanted to like, express. And obviously guitar and vocals and expressing your innermost feelings are completely different kind of mediums. So I never, I kind of initially, the first show we played up at my high school, which is what a lot of people don't know because I don't ever go that deep into like lore of
Census Fail.
Yeah, but the first show we ever played was actually at my high school. I played guitar.
A talent show?
Yeah. I played guitar and sang, and that was the first Census Fail show. And I realized I'm not quite good enough at either to do both
at the same time.
Yeah, so I kind of ditched the guitar.
So that was the first and last time you did singing and guitar?
Live, yeah. First and last at Ridgewood High School. So it's pretty funny, but I'm not quite sure. Yeah, it just seems like I was not meant to play guitar.
Where did you know to take your musicianship next at that point?
I didn't. I mean, I just sort of like I was involved in the New Jersey sort of like punk hardcore scene from being in other bands and trying to start. I had another punk band.
The VFW halls.
Yes.
That was the hangout spot.
So it was like, this is where it all exists. If you have a band, not only were there, I wouldn't say, there were national touring acts coming through playing these VFW halls in places that we would see on a regular basis. Like, a show I went to probably a couple weeks before that show was Alkaline Trio, Hot Water Music, Strike Anywhere, and Dashboard opening.
Oh, wow.
Like stuff like that are just coming through. So it was pretty obvious if you had a group of people and you had a bunch of songs that felt right, okay, because I'd already done that with a previous band that kind of dissolved and wasn't the thing, it didn't feel right. But I knew what we were doing. I mean, I felt it internally. And I try to like, I don't know. I think everybody has that innate ability to know when something is like great.
The lightning in a bottle.
Yeah. I think that everybody has the ability to like understand that feeling, or it's there. You just have to, you can't override it. I think because it's a weird feeling of like, oh, this is like special. But that's such an odd thing to like feel, I think, for a lot of people. Is like what I'm doing is actually special and has some like legs to it. Whether it be as simple as your chosen career path. Like I'm really good at, making cupcakes or something. Some people that I would assume somebody who I think passion, I don't like to use the word passion because that ebbs and flows. Like sometimes you're really driven by what you've chosen to do with your life, and sometimes you're absolutely not interested in it, and you need to go do other things before. But it's more like I literally have to do this, or else I won't function as a human. It'd be the same thing. I assume people who, I chefs or even people who are mothers. I mean, there's people that are like, this is what I do. This is it. This is what I have to do. I think that it's like a human experience, at least from what I have read and feel and to be true about like what the human experience is. Everybody kind of, and we talk about it so much that there's like this purpose and meaning to your life that you have to find. And I think it's pretty subtle when it shows up. But it definitely showed up when I was with the people that we started Census Fail with. It definitely was like, this is like light everything else on fire and do this.
The chemistry of everybody, what everyone brought to the table, being in New Jersey.
No, I think it was literally just like you make noises with people.
And it sounds good.
And it sounds good, but it also has something that feels unique and that you can't do it with anyone else. You know, it's like a relationship, I would say, you know. It's like you're like, oh, this is like, we can only do this together right here, like right now, which is literally what music is supposed to be, is, you know, an expression of a bunch of people making vibrations together, you know? Yeah, and and then all the other things gave us the ability to get out of, you know, New Jersey in the basement, and it was very easy because it was like, well, we'll go record where everybody recorded, which was this studio called Nada. This guy John Niclario, he recorded everybody from, you know, Thursday to Mike Hem to Armor for Sleep, and then a million other acts associated. So it was like, oh, we just go there and record these demos, and then we just play shows. It felt very easy.
That was the first 3 demos that you recorded?
Yeah. It felt very simple. And when I heard them back, was even more like, oh, this is right. You know, it was like I had that internal feeling, and then now I was hearing it, externally coming back to me as like, oh, this is actually like, this is good. And somebody like John was like, yeah, this is good.
He gave you guys that confidence.
Yeah. Was like, oh yeah, I record all this stuff, and this is actually really good, you know? So that was really cool.
How laser focused were you guys on making this? This was the 5 guys. This was everyone wanted this.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's an example that makes a lot of sense when you're 18. Is I was like, I'm not going on my senior trip. We're playing shows.
Wow.
It's like, nope, I'm good. I don't need to see any of you people ever again. I'm not going to the Bahamas. We don't need to do that. We're playing shows this summer. We've got a bunch lined up, and then we would do 2 shows in one day type thing. We were just all set to grind to. We didn't even really have a goal outside of just being a part of the music scene.
Playing anywhere that would have you.
Yeah, and just being a part of the Jersey, Long Island, New York kind of tri-state area music scene, because that felt to us like
that was big.
That was big. It was, you know, I don't know what, we didn't feel like we needed to go anywhere really. I mean, like maybe one day we're like, oh, we'll go to LA or Florida, but other than that, it wasn't like we got to get out there and start touring. It was like, no, we can just kind of just do it all around here.
Are you pushing the demos, selling merch at the shows?
We made merch, and we like pressed 1,000 copies
of those 3
of the 3 songs.
What was the name of that?
We didn't have a name. It was just our like demos. Yeah, we didn't name it really. Then we went and did 3 more songs, and then made an EP, and then we named it From the Depths of Dreams, and we partnered with this record label called ECA, and he paid for it and put it out, and we had a release show, and then we got signed like immediately by Drive-Thru. Yeah. So it was very quick, but I think a lot of people, we were very young. I mean, our drummer Dan was at the time 14, and everybody in the band was sub 20. We were maybe even sub 19, like at that point. So everybody hated us because it was like, dude, who are these kids who just came out of nowhere, wrote this stuff, and everybody likes it? Like, what is this? Which I totally understand. But we had also, every single one of us had already been in some other defunct, failed local band. Even Dan, the drummer who was 14, had already been in a band for 2 years by then. So we were all like, oh no, this is like our second or third band, and we knew what to do and how to do it on that level. So we were able to jump in right away, and we didn't have to like take a lot of time to get up to at least the quality of what was being done in that world at that time, which was enough to get you to the next level, you know?
Did every day feel like there was a rise? Something big was happening?
Yeah, because we were getting contacted by different labels, and like the labels were in a feeding frenzy then. I mean, it was like right when Tell All Your Friends came out, and right when certain bands put out their first record and were taking off, right when...
Was Tell All Your Friends being played on MTV, so there was a lot of buzz from that kind of industry?
Before then.
Oh.
This was like when that was a local hype thing, and it was like they were selling out the Legion Hall in advance, or people, or 2,000, 3,000 people showed up, and you're just like, what? Who is this? Like right then. So they were touring and that, but it wasn't like, it was way before they blew up. Yeah, it was like the early stages of all of it really getting bigger. Thursday had been the band. Thursday and Saves the Day for us, because they were so Jersey centric. They were the band that had like really taken off, because Full Collapse had like become, they were being pitched as the next Nirvana and all that stuff. So right when we got signed, they had done that, their like big tour on Full Collapse. So there was like kind of all just happening. So all the labels were like, oh, well, there's 5 million bands coming out of Philadelphia, Long Island, New Jersey, and associated areas. So let's just look for the next layer down. So they were just signing everyone. Like you could get, everybody was getting signed all over, to majors, to like Victory, to Militia Group, all these other labels, you know, Vagrant. And so it was really exciting, because you were just like getting contacted out of the blue by like the major league of, you know, we had people from multiple major labels who would like try to court us, and they tried to sign us while we were making our demo. They were like, they must have been in their like late 20s at the time. So we thought they were old. They worked in like production management at a label, like a Universal or something. And they tried to make us sign like a management contract. So we were already getting like predatory, like lenders knocking on our door, trying to sign us up to, you know, lifelong deals. So it was pretty exciting, you know, because you're like wheeling and dealing as a 18-year-old. And I was working at a flower store delivering flowers then.
Because you guys were 5 really cool kids who played heavy music in a pop way with the sound that wasn't being heard anywhere else.
Yeah. There was some bands that were doing it, but we were like the darker version of like, we were like, I was like in like, if you had Blink and you had Alkaline Trio is kind of dark Blink, like we're that dark version of the Starting Line or Newfound Glory. We're like the dark version of that, you know?
How comfortable were you being a frontman?
Pretty comfortable, because again, my parents were actors and actresses, and my mom was on Broadway. So I kind of had, and my grandfather played in the Army band or the Navy band. And, you know, like I have my great grandmother was on vaudeville. So like, I don't know, something just snapped. It was like, perform. I don't think didn't like singing. I still absolutely hate singing, but I love performing. That's performing and performance. I guess I call what I do performance art rather than like, am I a front man? Yeah. But I would definitely lean more towards the like, this is a show and it's supposed to be entertaining versus like, here, watch me just, you know, I'm no Adele. But I've worked really hard to do everything I can. And I think I do have that voice in me. Obviously, I wouldn't be here. It's just a matter of what I feel most comfortable doing. You know, like I'm always more excited about the performance aspect than I am like, I'm not going to sit here and, you know, rip out some like Christina Aguilera runs, you know, but I can scream.
What album do you think you sounded your best on?
That's a tough one. Probably If There's Light, It'll Find You. I feel super comfortable in that range and doing that style of singing. It's kind of like the original stuff we were doing, and is exactly where it comes natural for me to sort of sing. A lot of my influences are all inherently also more lyricists and sort of heady people, you know?
Who do you mean?
Jeff from Thursday, you know, very lyric driven, very more of it's just there's this angst and aggression to what he's doing and vulnerableness, and like the singing is not, you're not there to hear him, like I said, rip a bunch of beautiful vocals like, you know, Dallas from Alexis on Fire, who's the greatest, you know, he's like, you're just like, oh my God, dude, like stop it. Stop. Like you are too good. You need to calm down, you know, or he's like just one of the greatest singers I've ever been around. Or even like there's this younger band called Holding Absence. Singer is like out of control. Like how good he is at singing and performing is insane, because he is like throwing kicks and just moving around while absolutely just owning his ability to vocalize. But yeah, Jeff from Thursday is like a direct influence. Chris from Saves the Day. Chris is an amazing singer. Like, but there are people who would hear his voice and be like, I don't, that's not my thing. But like, I'm attracted to unique sounding singers. So when I started to sing, I geared towards making noises and doing things that weren't like what you would learn if you went to school for singing. I'd be doing the opposite of let me sing like Chris and Jeff and Blake Schwarzenbach, who's a singer from Jawbreakers, like probably my biggest influence outside of like immediate emo hardcore. Singer of Bane, you know, one of my favorite singers of all time. Arguably, there are some people that cannot listen to the band because of it's not whether they're good or bad. It's just his voice that is so unique, and the way he delivers it is what makes the band. And that's kind of always the angle that I've taken with also how I approach singing, and then how I'm influenced. Like, I think Tom DeLonge is the greatest singer of all time, because you can say all you want about whether or not that's true. Find a better like champion of like songwriting and being able to do it in a unique way that has transcended like genres as well as age groups. It's hard. It's an argument people, it's tough for some people to make, because you're over here, you're like, well, he's no Adele. Yeah, but you know, there's only one Adele, so there can only ever be that. But rock music doesn't require that. You know, rock music requires so much more than just like how well you can sing. The greatest singer of all time is Freddie Mercury, of course.
I'm curious your take on when Tom went to Angels and Airwaves and the sound changed drastically from what he was doing prior.
I thought it was really cool, because I'm a huge, if I had to pick my favorite Blink record is the Boxcar record.
What song?
The first song. What's it? I feel so mad. I feel so. Yeah, that's the first song, right? Yeah. When that came out, I was like, this is it. Because it was very much like Senses Fail. It's like dark Blink.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the way that I write is also really influenced by Tom DeLonge's singing, which is not, again, it's not your standard way anybody would ever tell someone to sing. It's his own unique way that if you emulate, you're impersonating. And that's always my thing too, is like the singers that I like, you can't emulate because you're just impersonating, which is never what you want. You have to borrow from them by making it your own, or people are like, yo, you're copying. So a lot of when I have an idea, I'm like, oh, it sounds like Tom would do this. I'm like, that's probably a good idea.
Were you almost emulating it even on Let It Enfold You?
Oh, yeah, always.
Big inspiration then.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Take Off Your Pants and Jacket was out at that point.
Yes.
2001 that came out.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, I was a big, I guess I am. That's something I don't really talk about, how big of a Blink fan I am. Specifically, I'm a Tom DeLonge guy. I thought the
So am I.
Yeah. There's some people that aren't Tom DeLonge people that are very big Blink fans and you know, like they're just, that's not their guy. He's my guy, or they're Travis guys, you know. But yeah, Tom DeLonge is like, as far as a songwriter, just, I mean, he's a genius, I think.
What's your favorite Tom DeLonge song?
Probably what's the name of the song with Robert Smith?
On Boxcar?
No, on Blink self-titled.
All of This.
Yes.
I like Story of a Lonely Guy and Reckless Abandon.
Okay.
That album was just really something.
I think Neighborhoods is really good too. People don't really like that record as much, but I like when Blink takes chances. Like that, and they always inspired me. Blink self-titled is like, if I could write a record that feels as appealing to your fans while also taking all these risks as a band, that would be like what I model. Like that would be something I'd love. I always try to do. I don't think I've ever necessarily achieved it, but I do think that record, like, to take a band that's a multi-platinum, massive band all around the world that shouldn't be doing anything outside of pop punk, and to really do something that is not that and have it be successful is like, honestly, way rarer than I think a lot of people really think. There's artists all the time who try to do stuff and change, and it just doesn't land because it's really difficult to do. It takes a real high level of songwriting skill to do. And Jerry Finn is one of the greatest producers of all time.
Did you ever work with him?
No, I mean, that would have been spectacular. I mean, it would have been life-changing. It would have been like, if there was one person that I could work with, people always ask you know, who would you work with I'd have Jerry Finn and Tom DeLonge produce a Census Fail record. That would be my ideal, because Jerry Finn, I think a lot of people don't understand how influential he was to the records that were successful in that time frame. If he had his name on it, because also it's a through line from Jawbreaker. He was an engineer on not 24 Hour Revenge, but Dear You, which is one of my favorite records of all time. And so there's this through line of his producing in influential records for me, as well as ones that are inspiring that I can, because I listen to so much music I can't pull in as inspiration. Like I like Dying Fetus. I listen to a lot of death metal and ambient sort of, you know, French post metal, like Alcest, and I can when I pull those into Census Fail, it doesn't fit, you know. And I've done that. I've made mistakes. I've made records that I'm like, I'm pulling in these guys, and it just doesn't connect. But when I always go back to like what originally inspired me, it always seems to work, because that seems to be the most truthful implementation of what's right for not only my vocals, but like the presentation of the band.
When you are writing a new album and you are struggling to figure out where it's going, do you have to metaphorically go into 25 years ago, this is what fueled me, this is the baseline of where Census Fail is and what it lies, and this is what people love, and this is what I found my love for? And do you try and pull into that feeling?
No, I can't go backwards.
You're always who I am today.
Yeah, but I pull them forwards. That's why, like, most of what I listen to, I only listen to modern music.
Oh, you don't go back?
No. Not that, like, but I will. There's certain records that I pull forward, and like we've kind of talked about, like
for who you are today,
like a Boxcar, like, so I listen to these, and I still listen to them, like everybody does. We have our, you know, but you don't listen to like your third favorite record from a band as inspiration for when you're trying to get that inspiration for whatever it is you're doing. I listen to the one or the two, you know, from each band, and I pull that forward, and then I listen to like modern art contemporaries and peers that we're playing shows with, like Plot and You and Beartooth and Motionless in White and Holding Absence, bands like that. So I try to bridge this gap. I don't want to just pull from nostalgic influences, but I want to pull from, I guess, experience is the best way to, like, the experience that I had back then and what influenced me then, but doing it in a way that feels current which is really difficult.
What Senses Fail album is most like you today?
Whatever one I'm writing. I mean, I know it's like the most generic answer, but it's hard. And that's the only way I'd want it to be, because what I write is so autobiographical
in that time frame.
That it's very hard for me to say that the record from Let It Enfold You from 2004 is like anyway me now. There's aspects of me in there, obviously, of course, but the hope is that I've figured out whatever I was trying to figure out by the end of the record, if that makes sense. Like whatever's piquing me to be creative is usually a question. It's usually some sort of questioning of, usually some sort of existential question. And then I hope to have an answer by the time the record's done. And I've always had an answer by the time the record's done. So when I go back, it doesn't feel like I can even place myself in there, because I'm so different than when I was making it. So I can only ever be the most me with current iterations of making music.
How do you perceive songs like Buried Alive or Rum is for Drinking still connecting to people 25 years later?
Well, it's interesting because I think there's two. It's like, if they're connecting with somebody who connected with it back then, I think it can be kind of nostalgia, and it kind of puts you in this place in your life and your world and sights and smells and whatever you were going through then, and reminds you of maybe good or bad times. And then there's people who hear it now who are younger, and that's a totally different, they're having a totally different experience. They might connect to it in a way like a song like Rum is for Drinking, which is really about growing up. It's kind of like a Peter Pan song. The whole point was like, like people grow up and they give up on their passion. They give up on their drive to like love life. And that can obviously hit you at any point. People have midlife crises and they feel like they wasted their life. I mean, that could be a song that speaks to you then, but I think a lot of people, it's geared towards, it's coming from somebody who is like 20 years old and looking at people 20 years older than them and experiencing that sort of like, wow, you've like lost all sort of passion for even experiencing your life. That's what this song was a reaction to. It's like really being around people that grew up, but grew up jaded is like not the right word for it. It's a lack. It's like the soul crushing depression of feeling like the inevitable end of your life is going to give you no relief because you didn't live in the way that felt meaningful. That's what the song is supposed to like be looking at, but from the aspect of a 20-year-old kid. I think I would write it totally different now and be a little bit more like nuanced with it, or be able to like not use pirate and drinking tropes to kind of try to say that, but that's what it felt like at the time. And so I think when you're young and you hear that, it can be very inspiring to like kind of middle finger to people who don't feel inspired by life. And for when you're old, it can be a reminder like, oh, don't like just be on guard for that. Like I took my daughter to her first hardcore show.
Who was it?
This week we went and saw, it was Peeling Flesh, Missing Link, Bayway, and a couple other bands. But it was just so cool because I need to be reminded too that there are 20-year-olds that are angry and feel like they can change the world, and that's really important. Like there's part of me that I feel very different being a father and very different being a 42-year-old person who's lived a life. How much I feel that I can do to change anything seems to diminish the older I get. And I like to be reminded, like just seeing people at shows, like inspired by angry music because they're angry at the world, I think is a really important thing. I think again, jade is a bad word, but if you're not kind of like upset at the world right now, I think you need to reassess where you're getting your information. You know, like it's a tumultuous time, and seeing younger people reflecting that back, because I don't see that so much. Like I don't get meet up with my daughter's friends' parents and are like, we don't have those conversations because it just doesn't feel appropriate. Not for political reasons or anything like that, but just for like, we only have so much time here. We're here with our children. We're at the park. Like we don't know each other that well. We're not going to try to have a relationship beyond our children. We don't need to have real conversations. We can keep it fluffy, you know? So as an adult, you kind of like have more relationships that are almost surface based, and that there's something about being young and involved in alternative culture that feels very like, you feel like the people around you matter in a way that as when you're an adult, those people become, I think family might be the right term, but you have your core family and you don't need people outside of it. When you go to kind of alternative culture, you're looking for that before you're able to find and make that your own. So I guess I find it really inspiring to see people still feeling like things matter. Whereas I sometimes kind of feel like isolated the older I get, which is interesting. And you hear older people talk about that as like, you know, when you're in your 70s and 80s, the world gets very small. And the world, I think, when we're talking about like Let It Enfold You and even Rummage for Drinking, the world feels very big. You know, when you write a song like Buried Alive and you're traveling around and this is all over the radio and all over MTV, the world feels huge, you know? And I think that there's an aspect of maybe that's something that people liked about the band and still like about the band, is I can give people some reassurance that the world is very big and meaningful versus kind of this, I don't want to say homogenous sort of introspective world. I think what I need to do and what I like to do is to try to pull people out of their little introspective bubble. And I need to do that. And I do that to myself all the time by, like I said, going to shows. I go to a lot of shows. People are always not confused, but they're always like, oh, you like go out and go to, yeah, I like music. I do think it is interesting. There are a lot of bands and a lot of people that don't like music. That's what they do for a living.
Who's your favorite performers on Warped Tour? Who do you think has the best stage presence? Who's a great frontman?
On Warped Tour.
Warped Tour.
Specific.
I
always, like I said, I've never seen Blink.
You've never seen them live?
I've never seen Blink.
Ever?
Never.
Really?
Never.
Were you busy?
Busy. Scared. No.
Don't want to ruin the magic.
No. No. I've never had it. I mean, I've been touring since I was 18. I'd never had an opportunity. I've never had an opportunity. Like I've been so close. Like we've played the club across from the arena they're playing, but we're playing at the same time as they're playing because we're both headlining. I've never seen them. So they're it's weird because there's Warped Tour, but then there's the Wimmerfest. I've met Kiss and I've seen Kiss. That is something I would hurt other people to see Kiss again. It's that good. I don't care what anyone says. I don't like Kiss. I don't want to have anything to do with Kiss, but I want to see it live. It was that good and inspiring for me to see Kiss. And the fact that we got to meet them kind of felt like they passed the torch. They asked us if we were in a band. We're like, yeah, we're in a band. They're wearing platform shoes, so they're all like 8 feet taller than us. They're like, you guys in a band? I'm like, yeah, we're called Census Fail. This is like 2 years ago, too, by the way. Man, but if Comeback Kid is playing, I have to go watch Comeback Kid. They're one of my favorite live experiences ever. I watched Electric Callboy at the last fest, and I might have to pencil them in as a band that I consistently watch now. They remind me of Metal 303.
Do you have any industry secret insight of who their new song is? They have a guest.
I can't. I'm not
but
allowed.
But you do know?
I do, yeah.
I have an idea.
Okay.
I'll tell you after who I think it is.
That was really fun. I really like watching Motionless in White. Their first show they ever played was opening for Censusville, which I think is so cool and random. And I don't know, most you would never think that. But again, they're from right outside. They're part of the tri-state area. They grew up Scranton and that area. We used to play there all the time.
When you were first starting out, are you just playing all those same places? Like the Court Tavern? Do you remember that?
Yep. Yeah.
Like Rutgers?
Yep. All that. Yep.
Stone Pony?
Yep. Not Stone Pony so much because that was bigger.
Oh.
But yeah, like just those.
All those venues.
Yep. Yeah. Kind of like consistently and, just kind of, I guess it was like the circuit of whatever, but.
When you guys had Let It Enfold You, that was the debut album. There's a lot of hype behind it from the debut EP. Did you feel like you were kicking the door down on the music industry? Here we are, where senses fail. These are our best songs.
With Let It Enfold You?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. But the problem was we got stuck being unable to release the record.
So that killed momentum for you, you think?
No, I mean, emotionally, yeah. I mean, the record. So we recorded it at a strip club in New Jersey.
Which one? On Route 18?
No, it's in Dover. It's called Showplace Studios, and it's actually where Skid Row recorded.
Oh wow!
It's half like a multi-million-dollar recording studio, and half a like Russian mob-owned juice bar. So that's where we recorded it. And we recorded it in 2003, and we were on Drive-Thru. Drive-Thru paid for it. They had a deal with a major label that
to upstream people.
Yeah. Then they wanted us to go do some more songs. So we went in and recorded Buried Alive and Rum for Drinking. Originally, it was only 11 songs, and those 2 songs weren't even on the record.
And then you just wrote those last minute.
Yeah, we were like, all right, okay, cool. Like we got this. We can do some more. We'll play the game. And they came back and were like, yeah, we need more. We're like, this is the best. Like we can't. Like we've been sitting on this thing. Like we only released an EP. We've been touring for 2 years. Like we got to put out our debut record. Like or else people are gonna forget about us. Like this isn't a time when we're like. There really did feel like there was like. The escalation was just happening like crazy. Bands are getting on the radio. It was like deep Ashley Simpson territory. She's got her show on MTV. Like, so we're like, the world is exploding. So we're just like, please, like put this record out. It's going to work. They didn't believe it. They wanted more songs. We fired our 2 managers in that time frame, ended up talking to Vagrant and being like, yo, can you help get us off of Geffen? Because Dashboard was part of that ecosystem of majors. So Vagrant had an in to hit up Jimmy Iovine, who was the runner he ran all of it and was like, hey, Jimmy, can you, this band Census Fail, like a baby band, can you just take it away from Geffen and give it to us? It took about 8-9 months, but that's what happened. So the record should have come out like a year before. And in that time, I ended up personally leaking the record. I would give the record out to people at our shows and just burned copies and give them out. So it was already on the internet. So there's different versions of songs on the internet in LimeWire, Kazaa days or whatever, Napster days, where there's different versions of the song, unmastered, mastered with different lyrics, with screaming when there is no screaming, and like very weird stuff. Because I was just leaking it out in different versions of doneness. Because I was like, I don't want to play this game. It felt very unsafe to be on a major. The heads of labels were changing then. A&Rs were getting fired. It was when streaming, pre-streaming, post-downloading, right in the time when everybody's internet was getting better. So you could just rip albums. Like, it wasn't like I'm waiting for Napster for 6 hours to get 3 songs, you know. So technology caught up with the music industry and was just eating it whole. So it felt very much sort of like now with AI, you know. That's why when people ask me about like AI, I'm like, I feel well equipped to deal with the disruption. It'll be different, but my entire career,
you've navigated all these different.
I went from being able to reliably sell physical things to people to just completely annihilated that. I mean, now we sell vinyl to people and there's a different, but we would sell hundreds of thousands of CDs. Like, I don't think people really understand the difference between physically selling hundreds and thousands of copies and what that means monetarily for like the groups of people involved with that, labels, managers, everybody, to now you're not selling nearly any physical copies.
How does a record label recoup costs if they're signing a band nowadays?
I don't know.
Do they have to take a portion of the touring?
No, that game doesn't work anymore. The 360 deals
doesn't.
That they tried to do that to us back then. That's felt like an interesting novel idea at the time, but labels are ill-equipped to understand touring, and they never fully really embraced how to do that. And it always was like, you just owe them at the end of the tour, and you're like, we can just completely like lie about the costs of this and, you know, like make it look. There's so many different ways and aspects that you can cheat that, and the labels never really hired the right people to oversee that. It just didn't work. You have to stream, from what I understand, about 30 million of a song in order to recoup like anywhere from a $30,000 to $50,000 record advance. So 30 million is about the number that's needed.
Just for the recoup.
Just for a recoup. Yeah. For a standard, what I've been told. Like, I haven't done the math. I don't really think in terms of that anyways, but it is good to have like a concept of, oh, 1 million is a number, 30 million is a number. These are numbers that people, oh, if you're, you know, in the first couple of weeks, your song streams 1 million, it feels like a pretty good thing. And then if at the end of 6 months or a year, you've streamed 30 million, it's pretty good. That's like a pretty good place to be. And I think everybody's happy, at least the label's happy that they made their money back. And, you know, hopefully that if a song streamed that much, it'll continue to be in the zeitgeist of that time frame of music.
What about when Senses Fail gets placed in Rock Band?
Yeah, that was huge.
Do you see that explosion of generations of people? Because those are also people who might not even be the music fans in general.
Yeah,
it's video game fans.
Yeah, it was equivalent to being on the radio. You know, we never fully had like a breakout radio hit. We got played on the radio, but when Can't Be Saved was on Guitar Hero, I think it was in Rock Band too. It might have been. I'm not 100%. I know Guitar Hero 3, obviously, but yeah, it was like having a #1 single of like this song went from being, I think, the second or third single that we released for Still Searching to being the song. It was obvious that like there are people that do not know any of the other songs, but they know this one, and they came to see the band.
And they're just standing in the crowd like this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same thing we play. Like last week, we played Sonic Temple. You know, we're playing with Godsmack and POD and, you know, Tool and other Electric Callboy and all sorts of other, you know, Amon Amarth, just a bunch of stuff that you're really not outside of the Warped Tour scene. But when we play Can't Be Saved and when we do our set, you have all these people coming and watching because then they remember the band from Guitar Hero 3 and from being on that, and they know that song because that was like one of those societal monoculture moments that
everyone knew it.
we just don't have happen as much anymore. It's like everybody was playing Guitar Hero 3. Everybody was doing that at that time. So those songs for a generation of people who are, it's a pretty big age group because it was a video game, are if you're in their world forever because they'll remember that. And that's the benefit and, you know, of pretty much having like a single on the radio. It's like the same exact kind of effect.
How did that happen? Do they reach out to you? Are you guys constantly pitching?
The label, so Vagrant had, I mean, we were also in a couple Tony Hawk games and Madden. We wrote a song for Madden, and Vagrant had really good relationships with Activision and video game licensing company, or the people that did the video game creative directors, I guess the music directors for those game studios. So they'd always be like, we got this, this, and this. And they were hired to do the soundtrack to Tony Hawk American Wasteland, where we all covered old punk songs. And that
you
was
did Suicidal Tendencies.
Yeah. And so they had great, I mean, that was one of the greatest things Vagrant did, is really they put all their eggs in the basket of video game rather than chasing radio. They did some radio, you know, but they really doubled, tripled down on the video game aspect of pushing their music to different gaming companies and landing like, I mean, massive things that ended up obviously changing everyone's careers, really.
What about when you would play Kimmel or Conan? Did you see big exposure from that? More people coming to the shows?
No, not in like a correlation 1-to-1. Like, whereas Guitar Hero, it's like 1-to-1. It's like, you're like
video game people.
Yeah. That kind of press or whatever, I look at it more, it's like press. It was all part of the like scaling up of, oh, this, I see this band here, I see this band here, I see this band here. But like, I don't know even how many times I've ever seen a band on TV back in the day and rushed out to go listen to it.
Right.
Pretty rare, you know, because it's such a strange audience late night, you know, especially some of the later ones where you're on 11:30 at night. You're not on till 12:30.
Those aren't your people coming to the shows.
They're not your people, you know, that's not I mean, your fans will watch it and seek it out and all that, but it's like, it never had that effect. I think it was more of like an industry sort of like, we say we did this. And
it's like a clout thing.
It was a clout thing. And for some bands, I'm sure it was super helpful. But for like the punk bands, that kind of music just doesn't translate in the same way. It has to you kind of have to be there and see it. You watch it on TV, it can be a little less interesting. You know, it doesn't have the same vibe.
Are there any tours that you think really blew up the band?
Yeah, Taste of Chaos. The first Taste of Chaos.
With The Used?
It was The Used. It was My Chem, Killswitch, Seosin, Under Oath. It was wild. Static Lullaby was on it too.
Are everyone's on that same tour?
Yeah.
Oh, that's massive.
Yeah, it was one tour.
I thought it was like, dude,
and it was right
legs.
when, right after Three Cheers blew up. We finished Warped Tour. We were sharing a bus with My Chem at the end of Warped Tour. We did some shows home. Three Cheers had just come out that summer, and we started noticing, you know, we were playing like 300 cap clubs. We're like, it's like 500 people waiting in line. Like, what is this? And you're like, they're starting to wear red, you know, ties and start to dress like Gerard. And you're like, this is so weird. Like, collectively, because we knew them from New Jersey. We'd played a bunch of shows together. We did some small tours where we were headlining over them. And then, you know, you're kind of like doing co-headlining with them, and they put out this record, and you're like, what, something's happening. And then after Warped Tour, we went home. They showed up on TRL, and you're like, well, what's going on here? And then Taste of Chaos is like 3 or 4 months later. And then all those bands get on Taste of Chaos, and that record is just massive. And everybody's showing up for the first iteration of this new indoor dark Warped Tour or whatever. It was just insane. I mean, it was, the first time I've ever experienced anything that felt like your 80s metal rock band. I mean, arenas sold out, period. Every single person.
Oh, that was arenas.
Yeah. Yeah. Every show is, I mean, it's got to be more than 10,000 people every show. And those are smaller, because nobody knew. It was an idea that this was going to work, but nobody knew that it was like, oh, this is all going to sell out and you're going to catch the two biggest bands in the genre, one at their ascension to the height of their band, and then the Used like at the height, and then you fill it with a bunch of other like Under Oath, like at the height of their band, and then we put out Let It Enfold You, and it's like, yeah.
It's just this perfect recipe.
It was ridiculous. It's that and that more so than that and Warped Tour 05, 06. Those years were just like out of control, where you just have the stage is just like Coheed, Thrice, Census Fail, Fall Out Boy, My Chem. I mean, just back. And like, then you threw in like, just, oh God, there was even like, on the smaller stages, bands that had like Plain White T's had like radio hits. Like there were just every single band had like radio hits, and they kept putting them at the same sites. So there's 30,000 people at like a venue that probably should only have 12, and they've tried to rejigger it to like make it okay, but you couldn't walk anywhere. That's when all the bands started having security guards. We never had a security guard, but
never.
No, we never had a security. We weren't. It wasn't that serious. But some of the other guys had to, some of they had to because they're just screaming groups of people screaming and running at them. And Warped Tour is not really set up for like an isolated backstage. Like people had to come out and walk to the stage and walk through the thing. And there were days you just couldn't move, like because everybody was walking to do their signings and their things, and you got to get out there, and you literally, it was so dangerous.
Do any fun or chaotic memories come from Warped Tour during 2005, 2006?
Ugh. I used to get up on stage every day and sing and do the screaming parts for, God, what Fall Out Boy song is it? I would smoke weed in the trailer and then get up on stage and scream Pete's parts. And I don't know why that.
Grand Theft Auto?
Yes. Yeah. And that was that. I don't know if that was chaotic. I think it was more chaotic just because I would always try to get stoned beforehand, which it's a really bad idea to do anything performance-wise high. Chaotic wise, I mean, I was miserable. Like I was not a happy person then. I was struggling, deeply unhappy, not in a state of in any way able to enjoy what was happening. I had really, really, really bad anxiety. Like I couldn't function. I wasn't able to eat. Like I had such bad anxiety. Like I couldn't really leave my bus. Not because I was afraid of any specific thing. It wasn't like triggered. It was just triggered. My existence has always had a low simmer to it, and at times that will boil over, and that's kind of my just experience. So in those 2 years, it was very tumultuous internally for me, and then for the band, because I was the guy. I was not only obviously the singer, frontman, but I was also very heavily the first contact for label and manager and booking agent. So having to abdicate those roles when you're the leader is internally jarring for everybody, because it's like mentally I just couldn't do it. I shouldn't have been on tour. I mean, the one thing that I like when I look back on that time in my life, I'm mostly really curious as to why our agent, our manager, our label even let me tour. Because I wasn't performing my best. I wasn't sober. I wasn't happy. It was pretty much, you know, now that I'm older and understand, it was driven by like, no, the band has to tour. Like, this is what's going on. This doesn't happen all the time. Like, we have one chance that you need to go on tour. I called right before Taste of Chaos. My grandmother died, and that was like the event that sort of kickstarted the spiral of bubbling up of like anxiety. And anybody who's ever had like consistent anxiety, not just a panic attack, but like your entire world is like it's like walking around with like if you've ever had your teeth whitened. You know, it's a sensitive sensation of everything you do is like, oh my God, I feel it. Sort of like that, but internally. Everything triggers you. Everything is overwhelming. Nothing feels safe. It sort of feels like I explained in, previously that moment on 9/11 when you're like, oh my God, like nothing feels safe. So having that happen and having to tour through that and having to like try to exist as a functional human was very difficult. I called the people who were in charge of us at the time. I was like, dude, I can't go. We were supposed to go to Europe. And this is Europe with no, don't have internet. We don't have cell phones. You're going over there and you're not communicating with anyone. It was our second time over there too. So I was like, I can't go. I don't want to go. It's like, I can't do this. And they're like, well, we're going to send what's his name over to your house with some Xanax and some other stuff that he has because he has anxiety. So, he's going to come drop off this. So you always wonder, like, how do bands and how does stuff like this happen where people develop drug addictions or whatever? Like, I didn't end up getting the Xanax because I had such bad anxiety that if I took Xanax, I would just immediately start panicking because I took Xanax. So I didn't ever go down that road with that specifically, luckily, but it was very interesting to be able to like say, you're like, I don't want to do this. I'm not doing this. And then have everybody around you go, no, we're going to make you do this. We're going to find a way for you to like not get help or get the kind of the help you need so that you can get right back here. And that was also, I don't blame the band at all because we're all young. We're all still 22, some of us. We don't know how to deal with mental health crises. We have no concept. And so they're like, look, this is what we got to go. We got to do this. Like, so they're pushing me to do it. And then they're getting mad and wondering why I'm a complete mess emotionally, physically. And then try to navigate that through a band that's going like this too. That's the other thing is because you're like, from that time up until probably post recession, it was like the band was just literally on an upward trajectory. So it felt like you're just constantly, there is no room for failure. There is no room to take the foot off the gas.
There's an opportunity every day that you need to take.
Yes, 100%, which then you end up doing things that aren't good for your band because, you're going to do things. If you're not prepared to go, like we talked about, step on live television and do your thing, it could be a completely destabilizing experience. I mean, the like having to perform at a high level like an athlete, just you don't have redos. There's no redo. You don't like, oh, sorry, we need to redo this live shoot. Like that's not the way it works. And that's not the way it works in sports either. It's like you get one chance, and like you're either mentally and physically locked in or that's what you hope. That's what you hope when you get all those opportunities. But you don't really get to pick that. So through all the great opportunities and all the escalation and all the amazing things we did, I was absolutely miserable and like not a functionally, emotionally secure person, which is why what happened on Conan, where I forgot the words, like literal blackout, like literally lights. Like I had brought a team of people to Conan, my singing coach, our publicist, everybody, my girlfriend, because it had been a couple months since my grandma passed away, and I was at the height of just like having to deal with my mother losing her mother, while I can only assume my mother's going through menopause because it's about that time, while everybody who depends on me, I can't provide for, which is providing me just me showing up and being ready, that's, to do this at these moments, kind of broke me, when you have a mother like I did, somebody who's a little more mommy dearest than much more of a friend and a confidant than like a mother, which was my relationship. So like that my grandmother raised me because my mother was absent because she had to be. She had to go do her job. She had to go take her opportunities and do Broadway and do As the World Turns and Guiding Light. It's like super demanding schedules because they would shoot every day. It's not like we think of stuff now where they have like 100-something episode season every day.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So she was just gone for most of my childhood until later on in her career, when it kind of, as actresses, get older, they tend to get less work. Just the way that, unfortunately, society works. So that's when my mother's career was going down and my career is going up. She sort of attached herself to my career. She made our first 2 videos. She made our first 2 DVDs.
She did Bloody Romance.
Yeah. She was very involved in the launching of my career for many different reasons. So when her mother died, we're like partners. She's not my mother. It's like dealing with, your partner loses their mother. You have to like take on the weight of that person's grief. So I was dealing with my own grief of somebody who's like my own mother to me, and my mother's grief, while also trying to manage all this. And it completely broke me because I had no functional way to like navigate it. And I was being told to keep going, just like suck it up, keep going. So then, that's the background. That happened like a couple months before I tried to get out of going to Europe, and they're like, no, you're going. Had the worst time I've ever had in my life. I mean, like, just that's when I really started drinking, because I was like, I need something to like take this from a 10 to like a 6.5. And that was alcohol for me. It was like, okay, I can like drink and it'll take that simmering, that boil down to like a simmer, something that I can at least manage to like get on stage, to like be here touring, just dealing with all of the stresses of life. And then we came back from Europe, and then it was like, we got an opportunity to do Conan. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it.
What's your relationship with alcohol now?
I was sober for about 8 or 9 years. And I drink, I think, what is normal. I never say I was an alcoholic, in the sense that traditionally people understand alcoholism to be like, oh, you have a gene that you drink and it's lights out, you're gone. It's like, I used it as like a tool. I became addicted to using it to offset my anxiety and utilize it as like for lack of a better term, like a crutch.
Like a medicine.
Yeah, like a medicine.
So as you figure out your anxiety, the alcohol kind of lessens.
Yes. The more therapy and the more actual healing I did with my nervous system, which is really the true way you, I think, have to deal with long-term anxiety or any kind of like, I don't want to say PTSD. It's a kind of not the best term for what I'm talking about, but yeah, the more that I did that, the less I felt the need to drink. And, now I'm at a really balanced, I feel like an immense amount of agency in my life. I think that when I look back on one word that would describe that time in my life, I had no agency. Like I couldn't even advocate to say, hey, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to Europe. I don't want to do Conan. Like I'm not okay, It's about the most emo thing I could say, right? But I meant it, and everyone's like, yeah, but like, dude, But my relationship with alcohol now is one of it does not have that same sticking point or use case in my life to where I don't need it. It's something I feel like I can have a relationship with. That is also interesting too, because I don't hear a lot of people. It's like, it seems not everybody who drinks and takes time off from it is an alcoholic or has to go to a program to do it. And some people do. I think it's an interesting conversation to have because people are so varied in where they're coming from, what they're doing. The conversation always just is like, oh, you're an alcoholic. Did you do 12 steps? You're drinking again. What happened? And it's like, I think it's way more nuanced.
Very case by case.
It's so case by case. And I think as we start to learn more about it, people are having more conversations about like, yeah, I don't drink for like years and then decide to have a drink and it doesn't necessarily mean anything. And that's kind of where I feel like I'm at now,
What's your relationship with Senses Fail? The fact that the band is going on 25 years and you're the sole founding member of it.
I think, like I said in the beginning, I don't have a choice. I can't. There's nothing else I can do. I've tried. I've tried to remove myself from the band. At times, I've never officially broken it up, but I've literally been like, I am not doing this, and go off. And I have managed bands, and I've worked for labels, and I was working at a donut shop.
Were you making them?
7 or 8 years. No, I wish. I was just selling them as a vegan donut shop here on Sunset, after we put out a record that didn't necessarily connect in the way I was pulling from my post-hardcore and hardcore influences, and it just didn't connect. And I didn't know what to do. And I said, I don't know. Maybe I need to move on. I started going to college, and I think I must have been 32 years old. So it was a very scary time in my life to be like, okay, I don't know what else to do, but I know I need to go do something else. Obviously that didn't work out and I'm back here, but for 25 years of being in the band, it's not like I didn't try to like leave or do other things. It's like, I can't do anything else because this is my purpose, really. So I kind of look at it like a celebration of like my purpose of like what I mean, like being the only member is interesting because only one person was ever fired. Every single person else has decided on their own time for their own reasons to pursue other things. So which is interesting because you would think like, oh, if there's a guy who's been in it and everybody's left the band, that there must be something to, oh, that person has asked these people to leave. And like, really, the only person that left was very early on, and we decided as a band that we wanted that person to leave. Other than that, everybody else has been like, look, I love doing this, but as I've grown older, I don't like this music, or I don't like touring, or maybe we're not making enough money. I want to have a family, so to still be here 25 years later and be the only one sometimes feels very odd, especially when we talk mostly about like the past. I think when I keep things current, it feels very like normal. But when I remember that I had this complete past with all these other people, it feels like a little lonely, to think that I might have been the only one that was crazy enough to keep doing this in some respect. Because there were times that that's what it took, It's like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, this is not economically viable. This is not like emotionally good for you. And I tried to walk away many times, and I've reached the point where now I'm not going anywhere. Like, it's not even possible. I tried that. I tried real hard, like 10 years ago. Was it 10 or 12 years ago? Even before then, I was trying to get my foot out the door. I was working for this company called Mitre Than Sword, and right at the height of when people started collecting vinyl, we were doing these really, really, really cool reissues of Blink records, where it was all like die cut, like just beautiful gatefold things, different colors, all sorts of really cool stuff. And that was like my gateway out. And then I started managing bands and working for Vagrant as a production manager. And like, that was when I really was like, I gotta find something else. And then I came back to music still, put out 2 records that I really love that weren't received that well. And then I was like, I think I might have to like move on. Because if I'm saying what I want to say in my most like unique and honest way, and it's not being received well, maybe that's like the universe telling me, hey, like, you're done. Your purpose. You've extinguished, you can walk away now. But that was a lie. So, because then like 2 months later, I found out that my wife was pregnant. And I'm like, well, I can really only do one thing. So let's ratchet it back up. Let's go. And then that was 9 years ago.
Have you talked to any of the original founding members just in the way of the fact that you are still going with it?
Yeah.
What is their take?
Yeah, no, some of them I talk to all the time, like constantly in charge of them, because I'm the band's business manager. So when we get our royalty checks in for Let It Enfold You, I'm the one who pays out the royalties.
Send it over.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So I'm in communication with all of them. Not all the time about, intricate things emotionally, but sometimes, yeah. I mean, Dan, our drummer, he's played on the last 2 records. He played on them. And for this next stuff, I wrote a couple songs with him. So it's not like people are completely divorced from the band. They just don't, want to be in the music industry. They don't want to be in a touring band, because when that's your life for however many years, and that's all you got to step outside that to see the way in which kind of like the world works. And then some people like that world more than the one that feels kind of like touring and playing in a band is kind of a magical experience. It's kind of not real, and vacillating between your home life and your like normal life and touring, it's very difficult for people to navigate. And I think as people get older, they just choose one or the other.
Where are you now on the new album for Senses Fail?
We just finished recording 4 songs with a guy named Anton DeLost. He did the last State Champs record, and a band called The Warning. Also did a couple Seaway records, band from Canada, really good pop punk band. And we're gonna start putting out songs this summer. So we just did a photo shoot. We're gonna ramp it all up, and we'll have new music consistently over the next 18 months, I'd say.
So what's the plan for release now? Like in today's world, are you going to do a full length, and are these songs going to be part of a full length?
I don't know. I think I have a hybrid idea where I like the idea of being able to put singles out that feel like very well thought out, like best foot forward. Kind of, we spent a lot of time and effort on one song, put those out as singles, and then out of nowhere, I'll just drop a record of something that feels much more like a classic Census Fail release, where it feels like there's a story, there's a theme, there's maybe elements that feel very unique and nostalgic, and then that comes out. I almost need to start treating records as singles. They're just longer singles, because you put a song out, it's really easy for most people to check out a song, right? Only your hardcore fans are going to listen to 12 songs, brand new, and you can only do that so often. And then when that comes out, it's over. You think you put your life, I mean, bands and everybody involved puts their life into a record. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, even at this stage with technology and everything. It's still a massive undertaking to record, conceptually come up. That's not even to say if it's good. Just, you could make a bad record and it takes a lot of time and effort. But to make a good one really takes like a lot of human capacity. So you put it out and pretty much it's over as soon as it comes out. I mean, nowadays, because we just don't have the ability to, like, things get 24-hour cycle, even less. Things get eaten up. Algorithms might not even connect your fan with a new record. Like, they might not even know you have a new record out. Like, there's so many times that I'm like, wait, they have a record out? Like, I like that band. How do I not know? Because everybody's algorithms are like siloed specifically. And unless you like recently clicked on that band, you're not getting fed any information about it. So you got to look at records now as like one and done. Like, you put it out and like, that's it. At least that's kind of how I'm approaching it. So I need to make more music than I've ever made in my life. So over the last 2 years, I've just been writing and writing and writing. And we have like a wealth of material, more so than I've ever had. In every other record, it's like, okay, we're going to write, go in, record. I'm done. That's it. I'm so spent from the emotional work that I put in the record, the process, the recording, the marketing. I'm done, But we kind of took a break for the last 4 years from releasing music, so that we could recalibrate like a new way to approach making music, so that like we're always putting out music, but it's always going to be different. And we're still going to be able to give people like records, because I do think that they're still important, and maybe they're not going to be the centerpiece of what makes a band big or successful anymore, but they're important. Like, books are important. Like, we still need books, right? Like, we can get all our information out there in many different ways, but we still need books. Like, they still have to be there for the purpose of somebody's thoughts need to have a full
physical existence
that feels like it can sprawl out. You know what I mean? Not just a concise, here's a clip, whether it be a podcast or of war. Like, we're now living in this weird sort of like, does anything really exist? So I do think it's important to have a record that exists as its own thing, a record, but you have to be really careful now, because like, that record doesn't connect at that time, right then. You wasted 2 years of your life making this thing. A record feels like a luxury now, It feels like something that you get to make with the success of maybe having a song that kind of connects. I don't look at it that way, because I know that I much rather make a cohesive piece of music that has a story, that has like a beginning, middle, and an end and has a vibe. But I also understand that we're existing in a different world now. I can't expect people who like Let It Enfold You to like our new record. And I can't expect some new person to just jump in and like that record when they can go on our Spotify and go, okay, like they put out a new record, but like this is the one that everybody likes. So I'm going to listen to that one first. So you're not only competing with, you're just competing with yourself at this point. So I recognize that. So we had to go and start writing for like multiple records. But again, nobody wants multiple records. You don't put out a double record. I'm not going to do that. But I do think dropping singles consistently and giving people something to look forward to, something new, and then you never know, you're going to get like a full cohesive record out of nowhere. That's at least my plan. And then after that comes out, you're like, we're back to these singles. And I kind of, because I also want to explore a bunch of different, not styles, but different people. Like, because that's the one thing that I've been having fun with is like, instead of just writing in my own world, I've been working with other people to like kind of take what I do and maybe show me a different way to do it, you know? So like next week we're writing with Sean Lopez, who I did Renaissance and Pull the Thorns from. He's in Deftones now. I mean, he was in a band called Far, and it's going to be a completely different sound, a completely different approach than what I did with Anton, which I think is super fun for me and something I have to do, because it's like if you're just writing for 2 years, you're never showing the world anything, and you're just constantly creating and then almost shelving it. It's very not exciting to continue. So I like the idea of going and just let's go write like a heavy record or like a shoegaze record, or let's just do something completely different, drop it, and then go back to the songs that maybe they connect in like a Can't Be Saved type way. That's, you know, so it's like, it sounds complicated, but it's also way more freeing than being like, let's do this album boom bust, like cycle of like, it's either boom or bust. Because as most bands know, or anybody who's been around has the luxury of being around for 25, 30 years, like there's certain things you're never going to be able to beat. Like you're not going to beat Let It Enfold You. You're not going to beat Still Searching. I have to always attempt it, but I also have to be realistic and know like, how could I change somebody's memory of what it was like for them to listen to this in 9th grade? It's not even possible. That's like the hardest thing about, I guess, being 25 years into a career, especially without the people that were there in the beginning, is I have no one necessarily to have those conversations with. I kind of just have to have those conversations with myself and suss it out internally and then come to some aha moment of like, well, this is what we should do. Whereas we would sit around and be like, no, that sucks. That's terrible. Do that. You know, you have this creative experience for better or for worse. I just have those creative experiences in my head now alone.
I'm really excited for the new music.
Oh, thank you.
And I feel like, especially with this massive resurgence of everything, I feel like you're going to figure out where to throw it.
That's the hope. I mean, also, you know, it takes a village too. I think a lot of people don't realize like, I bounce things because I don't have a band. I'm bouncing stuff off my kids, my wife. You know, my wife is like, I don't know about this song. My kids are like, no, this song's good. I'm like, well, you're 9. I'm going to listen to the 9-year-old, not the 42-year-old, okay? So the 9-year-olds like it. 42-year-old who's like into ska is a little sketched out on it, which good. That's good. I don't want the 42-year-old who really likes ska music to like New Senses Fail. That's the wrong demo. Nothing against people who like ska, of course. It's just not Senses Fail demo at this point. But yeah, I'm super excited because like I said, the most exciting part for me is being creative with the outlet of knowing people are going to hear it. The hardest part for me is the like, I make it and I want people to hear it like yesterday. And I just have to exist in this sort of like weird thing because it's like the excitement of creativity is in the moment in that moment. And then taking years to hear something and you're just like, dude, I'm freaking out. I need to get this music out is what I'm trying to say. Is like I created it years ago and you're just kind of waiting to see it through. So I'm beyond excited. In fact, I have like a physical need to release it.
Well, thank you so much for coming by.
Oh, thank you.
This has been awesome.
Thanks
Guys,
for having me.
Go listen to Senses Fail. It'll be linked down below. And do you have an expectation of the date of when?
July.
Oh, very soon.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Cool. See you guys. That was great.